David, thank you for your time. I really appreciate it. For the audience who doesn't know who David Martin is and the developments that you've done, not only in Coconut Grove, but throughout South Florida, can you touch a little bit on some of the projects you've done and how you got this position?
Sure. My family emigrated from Cuba in their early '60s, and so I grew up in South Florida my whole life. Went to elementary school, high school here, and I went to University of Florida. Got my law degree, my MBA. I started a business when I was in college, and then in 2001, we created Terra, and we really have been for the last 25 years in the development space and the real estate investment space, and it's been amazing just seeing the evolution of the city, kind of seeing the growth, and a lot of lessons learned over time. But it's been a special honor to kind of work with the communities, work with other developers, work with the industry, and trying to see how we can improve our community and better our community for our assets and also for the residents. Early on in my life, we did projects in Miami Beach. We did projects in Dadeland. Early on, I was really into this whole urbanism concept and movement, and kind of a lot of it was being spearheaded out of the University of Miami's architectural school, and a lot of planning directors of cities and whatnot were really pushing for that, and some of the benefits of urbanism, right? Walkability, but better for the environment, more cost effective for municipalities to govern and provide services in an urban context, and so we've been working in Tri-County, Palm Beach, Broward, and Dade, and we're in every asset class. We've done single family, we've done townhome, garden apartment rental, we've done mid-rise, high-rise rental, we've done mid-rise, high-rise for sale, and we've done grocery anchored shopping centers, industrial IOS, uh, hospitality, hotels. So we really have run the gamut. Kind of in college, they taught us to pick one asset class and then diversify nationally. We were kind of opposite. I've kind of diversified asset class and stayed zoned into South Florida. So it's allowed me to really dig deep into the neighborhoods and try to uncover opportunities in my city.
So, as a lifelong Miamian, you've seen all the developments, you've been part of most of the developments here. A lot of the residents on their mind, number one question they have is, how can we create more affordable housing for everyday residents so they can partake within the growth of our city?
Sure, I think we need thousands of units of affordable housing, and the affordability takes different context, right? For me, what I see is we need to in order to have affordable housing and affordable rents, we need to reduce the cost of what we're creating and for affordable housing. Today, there's a lot of subsidies and income tax credits and whatnot that are necessary in order to create affordable housing, and those processes are a little slow. And for me, I feel we need a market-based solution, and that market-based solution is working and calibrating the zoning code to incentivize property owners to create that affordable housing. And in order to have an affordable cost, in order to have an affordable rent, you need to reduce your land costs. You need to reduce your construction costs. You need to reduce your financing costs in order to be able to deliver a yield that an equity investor can invest. If you look at throughout the county, most of the affordable housing we have takes the form of garden apartment, 2-story, 3-story product. For instance, in Little Havana, you have 2-story, 3-story products throughout. And so for me, I think we need to rethink this missing middle concept where we need to take, commercially zoned areas that are abutting single family areas and create a new transect, a new buffer zone that's kind of an affordable kind of zoning that allows people to build a 10 unit or 15 unit garden apartment deal in these transitional areas, keep it at a 3-story volume, maintain the character of the neighborhoods, creating concepts that don't promote consolidation of lots so that you don't change the character of the neighborhoods. But at the same time, we need to find there's a supply and sea of single family throughout our county. And what we don't want to do is be concentrating affordable housing only in certain pockets of our city. What we need is mixed income neighborhoods. A lot of people talk about mixed income buildings, but what we really need is mixed income neighborhoods. And, we believe, and I think most of us believe, that in a society where the upper income, middle income, and lower income can live together. And I think that means we need to spread out the affordable housing throughout the county, but we need a market-based solution where small business entrepreneurs can go to a community bank, get $1.5 million loan, group up some friends and family to put the equity together, and then execute a 15-unit deal. And that's what I believe is in our future, and because we have to create the supply, but we need the pathways to do that.
Is it possible with Live Local, having the workforce housing market rate product, is it going to be possible to have those groups of people, families living together in a building? Is that something that's possible? Will the market be more accepted to it? I guess, what are your thoughts around that?
Yeah, I think Live Local's, an interesting policy. I mean, there's some great things about it, and there's some things that need to be, tweaked. And, I think at the end of the day, we need the housing, we need the supply, and, whether it's market, some markets you need more market rate because you have too much affordable. Some markets you need workforce, and so what I believe in is we need all kinds of housing. We need high-end housing that is low impact, low traffic, low infrastructure, but high value in that, you get a lot of incremental tax revenues. And then you have the other sphere where you have high impact, low value development, but that is serving the social good and purpose and preserving people to stay in our community and live here and want to live here and be able to grow their families. Affordable housing, should be transitional. There should be an economic development strategy in our neighborhoods as well, in order to have people be able to grow and prosper and kind of and take advantage of capitalism. We just got to write the rules in order to allow that type of behavior and facilitate those types of activities.
I think a great project that I think you're almost close to completing, the Upland project,
Sure.
where you're incorporating the transit-oriented development with the park and ride station. Is that going to be the future of development here in South Florida, where we're incorporating transit in these developments just to alleviate the traffic? Because at this point, it's pretty unbearable for most Miamians.
Yeah, I think traffic has many impacts on the economic GDP of our community. I mean, people's productivity, being traffic stuck in a car is less. People can't get to work. They can't take care of their families. They can't pick up their children at school because of traffic. So, I think mobility is a huge challenge we have because it is expensive to build. But I think there's a very important long-term benefit to having mobility and alternate means of mobility. And, and in some ways, you need to slowly transition. Certain areas, have the population, have the ridership, and certain areas may not. But we need to layer in a land use policy and planning policy that kind of coincides so that we could sequence and say, well, we're going to deliver this more supply in this area. In the meantime, we're going to maybe use BRT, but eventually we're going to go to rail, or eventually we're going to look at other means. But I think it's a huge challenge in our community. It requires dollars and a lot of infrastructure dollars. The problem is, the more time we wait, the more costly it's going to be on the residents and on our community. And I'm just a big believer that government can't solve everything, right? We need to think about how the private sector, how community, how government, how we all three can align on a vision. And sometimes we need to make it a neighborhood by neighborhood strategy. One size doesn't fit all. And so we need to really rethink how we're approaching mobility and in Kendall versus how we're approaching mobility in Homestead, or versus how we're approaching mobility in Miami Gardens, or Aventura, right? So I think every neighborhood has different constraints and opportunities, and I think our job is to try to work with the best planners in the world to kind of, really think about what the right solutions are for every neighborhood.
So there's critics that say that the biggest Achilles heel that Miami has to really reaching its true potential is the transportation. Do you think that our elected officials in the next 10 years can have a solid plan to expand Metrorail, or are we just going to be dependent on the rapid bus?
So I think there is a smart plan. There is a transportation planning organization that has laid out what that smart plan is, and what this, the north corridor, the northeast corridor, the south corridor, and so we have the plan. The question is, how are we going to pay for it? And I think development, incremental tax revenues from development can be part of that. I think looking at ways of connecting communities grants that exist federally and statewide in order to be, but what we need is, we need shovel ready projects. We need projects that are designed, engineered, that have satisfied the PD&E studies and all the necessary studies, and we need to push for it, and the community needs to come together, because a lot of times, a lot of these infrastructure projects, the some loud, minority of loud voices kind of sometimes don't want them. And I think we need to be careful and kind of transition our community from a NIMBYism to more of a YIMBYism, where we want transit, we want infrastructure, and we need to invest in that infrastructure for the longevity of our community. And we're raising our families and children here, and we care about Miami and South Florida in the next 20, 30, 50 years. So, I think we need to make investments now, and we need to prioritize those investments. We need to allocate our resources smartly, and we need to look at ways and to hack capitalism to solve this.
So as we're starting to see more of the urban core getting more densified, how are developers like yourselves, I guess, planning how to incorporate schools and essential services within these developments?
Sure. I mean, we're working on a school now in our Central City project, and we're working with Academica, and we're going to be building a K through 8 there. We're building a few more schools in the urban core. The challenge on it, education is also an opportunity. We need to start with, I'm on the organization. I'm involved with an organization called Teach for America. We need to improve the salaries of our teachers. We need to embrace our teachers, and just grow our draft picks of amazing talent in the education field. You're seeing in education universities less and less teachers, less and less enrollment, and we need to grow that enrollment, and we need to realign that. But a lot of it has to do with affordability and transit, and a lot of it has to do with better facilities for our schools. And so we generate, and our donor county, for instance, in Miami-Dade County, we're a donor county for a statewide system. And so what we've seen is, a growth of charter schools, which is great. We've seen a growth of private schools, and we need to just foster more education. But we also have to foster kind of the more important things, which are, how do we take care of our teachers? How do we have more teachers? How do we help them live here, stay here, move here? How do we embrace them in order to become fabric of our community? And if today we have, 10,000 teachers, well, we need 20,000 teachers. Well, what do we got to do in order to get there? And right now we have a school choice kind of, option in our state. And as much as people talk about education, I think we have some of the best schools, public schools and private schools in the country. And we need to leverage that a little bit, because I think there's a lot of misinformation out there on access and the quality of the education that we're giving our children. And I think just from what I've, analyzed and studied, we just gotta build our infrastructure, and that has to do with the talent pool. For instance, Florida International University has a great education program. We got to foster, fund that, make sure we're improving and thinking of creative ways of how to entice more people to go into that industry, into that career path, and I think that's an important.
So we're seeing now a trend of affluent individuals moving over here. For example, the co-founders of Google are relocating here or buying homes here. And we're starting to see that flight of capital coming from New York and California. Is that a trend that you see continuing, at least for 2026 and beyond?
I mean, it's always been happening. I mean, ever since I started the company 25 years ago, the quality of life, a lot of times what happens is the companies would create jobs, and then the developers would then deliver the housing once they knew the jobs were there. In our case, we've seen a lot of executives and decision makers and gatekeepers of organizations say, I want to have the quality of life and I want to live and be part of South Florida. And then and so they buy a place and then they bring their company. So it's kind of residential was kind of driving kind of the economic development and job creation in our city. And I think that's what you're going to continue to see. It's a great place to live, work, and play, right? And it's a great place to raise a family. We have an amazing airport that has a lot of access throughout the world. And, I really think Miami is a global city, and it also is very open to, immigration, open to new cultures and diversity. And so I think it's a great place that people are choosing. So I think that movement will continue, but it's not a new thing. This has been happening for decades in Miami.
So just for speculation, with everything that's going on in Venezuela and potentially what's going on in the Caribbean, do you think we're going to see more Latin American investors flood into Miami, or how do you see that shaping up?
I mean, we've always had a connection with Latin America, our entire lives, and when political situations have happened in Latin America, we would get a wave of migration. I think, overall, Miami has, taken a certain, over the last 30 years has somewhat been a capital for Latin America. And it's a place where Brazilians and Venezuelans and Chileans and Peruvians and Mexicans and everybody can kind of coalesce and connect and calibrate the ideas of this hemisphere. But I think this hemisphere is important. I think the fact that America is focusing on the hemisphere and focusing on the humanitarian crises that we see and human rights crises that we see throughout the hemisphere, I think it's a positive. So I don't see a general sense of a pop in demands in one way or the other. I just think that we've had a natural connection. It's and for so many years, 80s, 90s, and I just feel that will continue. And when you think of, we have second generation Venezuelans or third generation Cubans or second generation Brazilians, like we have a fabric of connectivity to all of Central and South America, and also with Canada as well. And over the last 5 years, I mean, we've always had the New York, the Boston, the New England market, but now we have a lot of American migration as well. So I think that diversity of ideas, I think that diversity of demand kind of gives us some resiliency to our real estate economy.
So everybody's wondering what's next for the Miami Seaquarium site. Can you disclose a little bit what are the plans or what we're looking at?
Listen, it's a cherished asset. It's a treasure in our community, and it's something that is a huge responsibility what we're doing. And we definitely are going to have a conservation education center, a visitor center for kids to kind of learn and study about the ocean and the importance of the ocean and why we need to protect our seagrass and how we need to protect the environment. And I think that's an important aspect of that property and how we could educate our children, I think is important. I think that's one of the biggest, most important things about a seaquarium or any aquarium, right? Is for society to learn about the ocean and to start thinking twice about how we think about the ocean. But we want to be very innovative there, and we want to do aquatic immersive experiences that deal with marine life. We won't have any marine mammals, but we will have a conservation education center. We will try to upgrade the food and beverage kind of opportunities there. We want to have a marina. There's a huge shortage of marinas in our city, in our county, and Tri-County really. And so I think it's got a great potential from a marine standpoint, and we want to upgrade the public access into this aquarium. So really, it's really an infrastructure move. We're going to be using, it's got some special, operational benefits, this aquarium, because you are able to, we have an ocean intake system. So we actually have natural seawater. And so I think that there's a lot of opportunities, and, we're in the planning stages now, but it's, one of the most exciting things our company's doing.
What market in Miami-Dade do you think has the opportunity to see the most growth?
I don't know. I think that's, somewhat of a general question. I think that, every market has a strategy. Every neighborhood, there's a real estate strategy, and sometimes it depends if something's oversupplied or undersupplied, whether it's office, whether it's retail, whether it's residential, whether it's hotel. But I think um, what we love to do is kind of interpret these neighborhoods and see how we can improve them, and what's missing, what are those voids. So I don't think I could pick one neighborhood, but I just think overall, I think there's an assessment and an evaluation of understanding where residents want to take their community, and how can we align business with the residential strategy, with the resident strategy, in order to achieve economic development, and achieve investment in infrastructure, and achieve an enhancement of infrastructure, so that we're not just kicking the can, and not solving some of the challenges our neighborhoods have.
So right across the street from us, we have the well. Congratulations on breaking ground on that project. How did that project come to life?
So there was a friend that owned it, and we partnered with the friend, and we've been doing a lot of stuff in Coconut Grove. We care a lot about the Grove. I remember in 2009, 10, after the great financial crisis, what was happening, and we just really are excited about its evolution. And I think that having new residential that's close to transit, that's close to an urban village, that's walkable, that is that has a wellness kind of social club, kind of longevity, kind of experts that are living, and so that people can live with experts in those fields, that they could, it's kind of a gift they give themselves, they give their children, they give their parents. So I just feel that health and wellness and preventative medicine, east west, those things are in an integrated solution, and marrying that into a residential product, I think is there's a lot of value to that. And so, we just completed the well in Bay Harbor, and we've done extremely well there, and we're really excited about its impact on that neighborhood. And I think sometimes it's not the hardware and buildings that we're building, but sometimes it's the content or software that we deliver within our buildings that could also make some impact and positive change in a neighborhood.
Where do you see the future of Coconut Grove going in the next couple of years?
I think a lot of the same, protect the trees, grove, improve the trees, maintain the trees, make sure they're healthy. Um, I think that's important. Make it more walkable, safer. Pedestrian safety is a critical thing. As we develop these neighborhoods, you're going to see a lot more walkability. We need to focus on pedestrian safety, crosswalks, wayfinding, those types of things, I think. But the Grove has a restrictive zoning. So the changes are somewhat more incremental. They're not. It's a mature neighborhood. It's not. Some other neighborhoods are more emerging and brand new, and they're going to completely transform. I think the Grove kind of stays what it is, right? And I think the trees and the tree canopy are kind of its identity, and that's something we need to preserve and protect. But at the same time, I do think that you'll see a more infill development that I think is going to continue to increase the supply and provide a variety of price points, so that more people can live here and enjoy the great things at Coconut Grove.
David, so what is going to happen to the northern part of Watson Island? What are the plans there?
So, listen, the city tasked us in our development agreement, and we went to a public referendum, and got over, close to 60% of the voters to approve a purchase, and to approve this public park, 13-acre public park we're doing. The big move, I think, is how the entire island works, how it functions, how it could become a neighborhood and a community asset. Today, it's kind of hodgepodge. It's not really planned and organized. And for us, we want great lighting, great walkability. We want to have the Children's Museum use the park. How is it safe for these children to walk to the park and vice versa? And so, there's a lot of new plans throughout. There's a seaplane base. There's, maybe, there's a lot of things happening. And I think that, I think there's going to be a new kind of, a new, connectivity of the island. And so we've, commissioned some amazing planners to work with us on the master plan and work with the city in order to make sure that the island becomes a community treasure and asset, and it's a place people want to visit and come to, and whether it's they're going to school or going to the museum or taking the seaplane or just going to the park or really visiting some of the yacht clubs and the outboard club. There's so many cool stakeholders, and so our goal is just to kind of unite all these stakeholders and create an amazing destination that the city of Miami is proud of having.
Where do you see the next 10 to 20 years of Miami going?
I think we're going to see more urbanism. We're going to see more development within neighborhoods. We're going to start seeing our neighborhoods connecting. You're going to see developments, whether it's Little River connecting to, how does Little River, connect to Magic City, connect to Design District, connect to Midtown Connect. So I just see over the next 20, 30 years, you're going to start seeing all our neighborhoods connecting, and you're going to see more development within the neighborhood centers. I mean, between the neighborhood centers. And that's an exciting thing because, what we want is, we want people to have options. We want, we want people to be able to experience the DNA and culture of different neighborhoods, whether it's Little Haiti, whether it's Little Havana, whether it's Overtown. Like there's so much culture and diversity. And the goal is can somebody feel comfortable walking or biking from one neighborhood to the other? And I think that's what we're going to start seeing.
And I'm seeing a lot of people going to communities like Little Haiti and all these different markets, and there's a lot of things that are coming up there. So I agree with you that I think transit, urbanism, all the interconnection that needs to start happening, hopefully sooner, because the traffic is really unbearable for most people in Miami. David, is there anything else that you like to leave off to the audience and to the community about yourself, or anything you want to mention?
No, I think overall the whole move is that we need to be part of society. We need to contribute to society. We need to leave an impact and an imprint, and everyone has different issues, and having and rather than just sitting on the sidelines and trying to complain or whine, for me it's kind of like our society needs to participate and engage and help each other, help government, help the private sector, help the resident communities, help the most vulnerable. We need to participate in society and think regionally and think of others, and also know that if the sustainability of good ideas, right? It's if something's good for business and good for society, it's sustainable. But if it's not good for business and it's good for society, it's not sustainable. And so we need to look at capitalism, democracy in a way of implementing positive change.
David, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. If you guys enjoy this content, please follow, subscribe. Thank you very much.
Thanks.